Hi, everybody. It's Chuck Gilmore with Power to Sing Live number 117. Today we're going to talk about what do you do if you can't sing any higher? What do you do when you can't sing any higher? I got this question this week. I think it's a great question because there's some questions that you need to ask yourself. It's like, why is it you can't sing any higher? So let me just say hi to anyone who happened to be hanging around here. Hopefully, I did mark this today as a public broadcast. So, oh, here we go. Hey, George, you're number one today. I knew you would be on. Well, thank you. I'm here. I guess after 117, I'd hate to miss anymore. I'm feeling the pressure. And Jorge, nice to have you here. Thanks, Ty Wilson. Great to have you here. Melody Irish, just listening. Great to have you here, Melody. Polarizer for Life, hi, nice to have you here. So, here's the thing. Do you know whether your limitation, you can't sing any higher, is it genetic? Or is it just a self-inflicted limitation? What's the question? I mean, that's the question, isn't it? So let me ask you this. Just give me a yes or no to you guys. Is there a limit to how high you can sing? Really? Is there a limit to how high you could sing? Yes or no? What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Yes, there's a limit, or no, it's unlimited. I have my idea behind that. Okay, George is still in a hotel. He's from Paradise, California, and George, I don't know, I can't imagine the disruption that you. Thankfully, you're alive, and that you do have a place to go back to eventually. Um, it's just unbelievable. H hat DB, or it's a B hat DB. I'm practicing from past 3 years, but my voice is not improving that much. What should I do? Take a voice lesson. Have you had a voice lesson? I'd like to know that. Jorge says today it's 39 Celsius degrees here in Buenos Aires. Well, that's pretty toasty, I think, isn't it? I think we're going to hit 40 or close to 40 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm not sure what that is Celsius. I'm going to have to. I need a chart here, you guys, to help me. Hola. Joe Rose, I don't speak Spanish. I am sorry. I wish I did. Hey, Mike, nice to have you here today. Biddy 4. And Ty Wilson asks, do people naturally can sing from birth? Yeah, I think there's a lot to that, Ty. I think a lot of people just kind of can sing. I sang all the time when I was a little kid. I don't know whether I was on pitch or not, but I sang all the time, walking through the house singing. I remember singing Yankee Doodle Went to London, riding on a pony, stuck a feather in his hat and called it macaroni and cheese. And I was probably 3 years old. I can remember. I can remember back quite a ways on little things. So Melody says, I don't really want to sing higher than a C5. Yeah, I mean that's, well, C5 melody is a little bit low for you. I think you could go higher than that, but because there are going to be a few songs here and there, you're going to want to get past that. Polarizer says, yes, it's limited, but it is not impossible to increase your range dramatically. Agreed. I totally agree with that. Yeah, I have Brett Manning's course. Should I purchase your program? Of course. No, I think Brett's is great, but it's, I didn't pattern mine after anybody's. I just wrote the course as I felt like it would be a benefit to people, and so I don't really have a valid comparison to make between those two. It's much. I think it's quite a bit shorter. If anybody's had both or done both, appreciate your comment on that. I practice. George says I practice every day. Chuck, going to go back and start over taking the stages on the Singer's Impact. Cool. George is referring to, he's a member of Singer's Impact, which is a memberships group, and we have stages of progress in there, and there are several different courses that are in there. Oh, Melody? Okay. Yeah. C6, I'm kind of with you. I mean, really. That's going to cover you like 98% of everything ever written, so I understand that. Okay, well, let's talk about this for a second. So, this idea of genetic limitation versus self-limiting. It's a little bit challenging, more challenging online. Oh, so Jorge says 102 Fahrenheit. Whoa, in Argentina. Roasting, I don't blame you, on his way to singing lessons. So, genetic limitation, when I think of a genetic limitation, a good way to think of it is if I'm, I'm an adult male at, let's say I'm 5'6", but my dream is to play in the NBA. Okay, well, it's possible, but would you say it's possible to play in the NBA if you're 5'6", if your only position that you would play is center? And let's just say that any coach would put you on the team at center if you're 5'6", so that's not the limitation. What's the limitation? Will you ever be able to win a jump ball or a tip when you're playing against the other center who is 7'3"? So there's a genetic limitation here. And yes, the 5'6" player could, there's probably players out there that are that tall that can dunk it, I'm guessing. I couldn't, and I've never touched the rim, and I'm 5'10", and I'm 5'11", 5'10 and a half, 5'11". Never even touched the rim. I think I was that close. I never could. So I had a genetic, well, if it's genetic limitation necessarily, that's probably just something I could have addressed with appropriate workout and everything else. But eventually, I can only jump so high. Even the 7'4" guys are genetically limited. They can only jump as high as they can. They're limited genetically. They're not going to be able to do what a deer could jump over fences that are enormously high. So eventually we run up against our genetics with our voices. The vocal folds themselves can only tense so much from person to person. And we think always in terms of high notes, but think in terms of low notes. I'm genetically limited. I'm genetically limited. Yeah, I am limited. Hey, I maybe have invented a new word, limitated. Well, that's my E. I've been a little sick. My chords aren't quite right. Now I'm just growling. But so I can't go any further, really. I mean, on a Saturday morning, if I've got a cold, and I can sometimes hit that low C maybe. So personally, I'm limited genetically in the lower range, and I'm limited genetically in the upper. There's just only so much. There's a finite margin here that I can do because of the physical genetic design of my vocal cords. Now, that doesn't mean that someone else couldn't do differently. Their genes are different. Their cords are larger or smaller, or they can tense it more, or they can't tense it as much. So we do have genetic limitations. So here's the question for you who are learning to sing online without maybe having a live teacher to work with in person, or whatever you've chosen to make your study a study that's available to you from the internet. And maybe you've never had a live Skype lesson, or maybe never had a lesson in the studio with your teacher. Maybe they've never heard your voice. There's so many avenues now of being able to get that information to someone that can help you. But let's just say you don't have access to anything but yourself and your own testing. Let's talk about some self-tests that you could do to determine whether or not your limitation is genetic or whether it's an actual self-limitation that somehow is going on with your voice, that if you just change something a little bit, it would open up some more notes. I think it was, who was it already said this morning, that that we all have some limitations, but there's a great deal of growth that can occur. Yeah, it was Polarizer for Life. He said, yes, it is a limitation. We are limited genetically, but it's not impossible to increase your range dramatically. So eventually we do come up against the genetics, but we want to make sure that we've maxed out the potential, that we've increased our range to our genetic limitation. Now, or either way, low or high. Now let's also be, I think Melody kind of hit the nail on the head when she said, I don't really want to sing higher than a certain note. And remember, when we're singing, we don't necessarily even, because you can sing a certain note doesn't mean, like in your exercises, doesn't mean you should in the song, because it may not be where your voice is ideally situated. And so just because you can doesn't mean you should. I've learned that lesson through the years in my voice. You still like to. You like to go to the extremes, right? You want to be able to sing as high as you can and be, wow, wow everybody, or sing real low and be really impressive. And we still like to push the margins, but in reality, there's probably a sweet spot for our voices. Not in terms of what it's easy for us, but just in terms of what, that really kind of, your body itself kind of augments your voice, ideally. I think there's this area that's like, oh yeah, that's the sweet spot in the voice. That's very unscientific, and I'm sure there's some science behind an optimal sound, or an optimal place for your voice. But you can kind of start to feel it too a little bit through the years. Sorry for the scratch. It's been scratchy for a couple weeks. Probably will still be, because I was sick. Okay, so comments here. Let's see. I scrolled back up to find the comment from Polarizer, and let me just see here. So I can improve singing through your course, or do I have to take personal classes face-to-face? I think you can improve your singing through my course for sure. Absolutely. Waffles for Days says you can do both. Okay. I don't have that much money for a personal class. Yeah, so a lot of people don't have money for at this time. That's a really interesting thing. I mean, I've spent thousands and thousands of dollars on my voice through the years. I'm not kidding. I mean, I remember one time I handed a teacher that I wanted training from $3,000 for some special training, a voice teacher. And so, I'm saying thousands and thousands. That was just a one-time moment. He answers, though, he's going to improve online. I mean, can I improve through online? What do you think, team? Can you improve online without taking a live lesson? What do you think? I think the answer is absolutely yes. The question is, what do you want to do? It's always the question. How long will it take me to learn how to sing? Well, the question is, do you want to sing to your little child as she goes to sleep at night in her bedroom? Or do you want to sing at the Metropolitan Opera? Or do you want to sing on Broadway? Or do you want to, go on tour for a year to millions of fans? I mean, what's your goal? Waffles for Days says, yes, but it's always the risk that you might do something wrong and that you theoretically lead to injuries. We can always take everything to an extreme, and so you do want to be careful about that if you're studying on your own or even with a teacher. The first rule should be the same as the physician's rule. The Hippocratic oath, I think, is something like first do no harm, and of course that's the minimum, right? So as a teacher, you want to do no harm, and hopefully you want to do a great deal of good for the voice. If you're on your own, if you're studying on your own, don't do any harm. Ty Wilson says, do singers have to sing every day to keep the voice? So Ty, it's kind of like being an athlete. Pavarotti, who was a famous tenor, maybe you've heard of him, is now deceased, but was at the top of the opera game for many, many years of his career, one time said in an interview, singers are like athletes. And I think he was referring to not only that they train daily, or they should train daily if you're a pro, but that in order to stay conditioned, you have to train regularly. You have to sing regularly. And so I do think that singers do have to sing every day to keep their voice. Look what happens when you age. Look what happens if you stop exercising. Look what happens if you do keep exercising. Well, not, I'm in my winter hibernation of inactivity. I'm waiting for the weather to turn so I can get back out and start getting some exercise. It's amazing how fast you get flabby, right? Well, think about what's going on with your vocal cords. They're the same. They're a muscle, they're tendons, they're tissue, and they respond to exercise. So, it just depends on what your goals are, Ty. But yeah, I think if you're a serious singer, you've got to stay on top of it. I know when, I've heard Seth Riggs talk about this, he traveled with Michael Jackson on his tours, and when he was on his Thriller tour, I believe it was, he talked about, he vocalized Michael, this is on the day of his performances, he would vocalize him 3 times a day. And I think Quincy Jones said, Seth Riggs kept Michael tuned up like a Ferrari, and he worked his voice every day, and it was like he'd do 45 minutes, and then he'd do 30 minutes, and he'd do 15 minutes, or something like that. There was an hour, and then 30, and then 15, some kind of segment of 3 throughout the day, so that when he hit the stage, man, he was ready to go. That's, I think that's kind of a lesson to learn. So sorry, I'm just trying to get some of these comments going here. So that's the answer, Ty, in my opinion. DB says, please answer those questions. How can we help ourselves without a teacher? How to find the sweet spot? Well, I'd appreciate any comments from you guys. I think there's it kind of depends on how much time you have too. Very high-speed internet, but okay, now it's back to red again. Sorry if it's getting a little glitchy. Internet is a little bit there's a little bit of voodoo in the internet today. I get help buying, like let's just say social media or marketing my YouTube channel or whatever I do. I sell some courses. I have some memberships. I have a members and membership site and so forth. I'm getting ready to release a course on vibrato this Friday. So be sure and catch that, you guys, on Friday's broadcast. You can see everything's been leading up. I've got, I think, a really exciting course that's going to make a difference for people. There goes my stream again. It's flipping on and off. Anyway, I invest money to buy courses online for marketing or for learning how to do a website or for learning how to do YouTube videos. I'm a member of several different memberships where I've been helped doing videos, using my iPhone to make videos, courses on how to edit videos. I mean, so I'm doing the same thing you're doing with voice online. And in none of those cases that I can think of have I ever hired the person face to face. So I'm doing it all on, I apologize about the stream condition today, you guys. For some reason, it's fluctuating, and it's a nice clear day. I don't know why it's doing that. So we may want to, try and hurry this through. I apologize. Don't know what's going on. So my advice is, I mean, my answer is yes, you can learn online. I do. It's not singing, but I'm learning a lot of other things online. But I do invest in courses. I buy courses as much as I can as much as I need to learn. And so I'm making courses available to a lot of people, and they're buying them. And I'm getting, did I see something here from Melody? The course has been amazing for her. I'm not sure which course you're talking about, but so thanks, Melody. I think it might be one of my courses. So I'm getting so far behind on my on my things here. Okay, let me do this. I'm going to finish talking about this subject, and then I'll go back and blast through some of these comments. So so we've talked about genetic limitations. You can only sing as high as your genetics allow. But what are some of the self-limitations? Self-limiting for reaching high notes, the larynx may be coming up. You may not know it. That's the problem. That's the challenge we face when we're trying to learn on our own. You don't know for sure. You think you're doing it right, and you're not. Or if the larynx isn't coming up, maybe it always ends up affecting the larynx. Whatever it is that we're doing, it affects the larynx. So if we spread the vowel, if the vowel opens up, oh, if I start spreading the vowel, the larynx starts coming up. If I start pulling up the bottom, the chest voice up, I'm pulling up, sorry, just peaked. I start pulling up the bottom, then the larynx comes up. So there are some things I'm doing physically that's creating limitations. I guess I'm calling that self-inflicted limitations. But they're not on purpose. It's just the way my muscle memory is functioning. And that might be happening to you if you're reaching this limit, but you're not at your genetic limit. Maybe you're just doing something physically that's limiting you. So when you're trying to learn online, let me talk about a self-test that you can I don't know what's happening, folks, but I'm not going to make a comment again about this, but I keep getting a message from YouTube that I have a very bad stream today. I'm not even going to look at that. Well, it's the YouTube that's flashing it saying bad, bad, bad. I feel like I'm on Michael Jackson's Bad tour. Okay. Here's a test you can take to see if you're self-limited or limiting yourself in terms of going up the scale. So if I said goo 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 goo, I did that all right. The larynx stayed down, and you could hear as I went higher, it got a little bit hollow or hooty sounding. Goo 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 goo. Ladies, you do the same thing, only you would start about here. Goo 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 goo. And your voice gets, you can't sing a certain note. I would do that test right there, because here's what you might find. I'll do it now where there's a self-limitation. Goo 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 goo. That's self-limiting because I can't keep doing that. I am going to hit a top. I'm going to hit a spot where I simply can't go any further, or it's going to break. Now some people can't break in the falsetto. I've met some guys who just haven't been able to, never broken the falsetto, and so they really do hit this top. But it's because they're holding on to this, they're kind of gripping it, and they can't relax into those upper notes. Goo 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 goo. Now listen, goo 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 goo. Hear the vowel? Goo 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 goo. We're singing ooh, right? Goo 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 goo. That's, the vowel is changing, and that's an indication, that's a sign, that's a signal that the larynx is coming up and the vowel is changing, so the larynx is coming up, or vice versa. They usually are happening at the same time. So that's a test you can take. Now, if you're staying, if you're keeping the correct coordination to allow yourself to sing a much higher, goo 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 goo. I can't go as high as, like I've heard Seth Riggs go way. Anyways, I've heard him hit the high C before. Now, but I can score than him. Because I'm a bass. So, but that's pretty much, it's almost my genetic limitation, but I can do it wrong actually and go a little bit higher. I'm kind of in that, leaning on that hooty feeling. So I'll be able to keep, so the larynx is staying down, and so I know I'm not limiting my a mezzo soprano, a mezzo, or an alt, some of the altos, they can hit the C5, a C6. So there's much, if the larynx is staying down and the conditions are right. So a way to monitor yourself is with that goo goo goo, the gee gee gee. If it gets pinched or squeezed and the vowels start changing, it's a pretty good indication that you're being limited by your genetics. So that's kind of a simple check. Now, I don't know if buffering badly, we'll try to reconnect. Yeah, so several of you have had some issues there. I don't know why it's a problem today, you guys. So let me blast through some of these comments. If you can stick around, great. If you can't, I understand. Hopefully the well, I don't know. The rebroadcast might be even worse. I don't know. Or when YouTube puts it up. Okay. So backing up to so Ty Wilson's, I feel like low key singing is like whistling in different tones. Okay. Melody says the course has been amazing for her. Great. Jorge says I can't. I've tried. I'm kind of lost on what some of these comments mean. Haven't tried Skype lessons. Skype lessons work really well. I resisted them myself personally for a long time, and now I had some experiences where some of my very best lessons were on Skype, and I studied that way a lot with Mr. Seth Riggs. It's just such a wonderful thing to be able to, I've studied a lot with Greg Enriquez down in Las Vegas. So it's just opened up the world to me, and now I'm teaching everywhere in the world, as a teacher, all over the world, almost not every country, but gosh, I think I've taught in Iceland and Russia and India and the Philippines and Australia, and so can't remember if I had a lesson in Japan or not, but I've had some lessons in China. So, the internet is amazing when it works, like not today, right? Okay. Melody says, really helps, but if you do the exercises demonstrated, they alone will help. Melody makes a good point. You may not be able to tell if you're doing them like they are demonstrated. So you might want to have a friend say, hey, listen to how I'm doing this. Does it sound like his recording? I mean, because I'm not hearing it. Or another really great way to do it is I have a little Tascam recorder that I record lessons with, and I record my lessons and I record lessons for my students. Because if you practice and listen to what you're doing and even record your practice and listen and compare it to the demonstrations that a teacher gives or somebody that I'm giving you online, and listen to it, the recording of your effort, and then listen to my demonstration and see if they match up. And if they don't, listen really carefully about the directions again, and have somebody listen to it if you can't hear it. And in that way, I think you can get really close to doing them as demonstrated. Thank you, Melody. That's a great point. Ivan, nice to have you here today. I still can't tell if I'm singing in falsetto or head voice. I had that conversation today with one of my gentlemen I think this is his fourth lesson today, and he came in saying, I don't know whether I'm in head voice or whether I'm in falsetto. So, anybody, if you can do this, if you can take that line on E and pretty much go up through there without this happening, yeah, if it didn't break. If it breaks, you're in falsetto. If it didn't break, you're in head voice. And off on the way back down, if you don't have to crack back into the bottom, you were connected. You were in head voice. Polarizer says, honestly, I think anybody could improve even if they just practice by themselves with no vocal lessons, but it would be better if you did have lessons face-to-face. Yeah, Polarizer, I'd agree for the most part, but a lot of people practice wrong. And a lot of people practice by pulling their chest voice. Because you think, wait, I just have to do it harder, louder, because that'll stretch the vocal cords. That's not the way it works. And so people just push it. And you don't really develop the voice. Let me just say this to everybody learning on your own. You don't really develop your voice by pushing it to its extremes every day and all the time, It's a balance. You develop your voice by finding balance between how much air you're using and the muscle of the vocal cord. And you grow in that balance. If your chest voice is too much, but your head voice is too small, it's going to be really hard. You need to bring the chest voice down with the head voice so that they're about the same, and then you're going to find progress is much faster. That's a really good online tip. George says it really bothers me when I am singing that with a song and it ends in a very high note. But if I sing to say music of the night, I can hit every note. But if I sing to say music of the night, I can hit every note. Oh well, okay. So I think it depends on which high note you're talking about, George. But if you're saying me, um, that me is a pretty easy a note to hit an A or A flat on, and also it's a little bit easier to do it quieter. I think that's how it ends on the end. So it kind of depends on the vowel and the word too, but maybe that makes the difference sometimes. Tom Candy, hi. I have an audition for a West End show next week. Congratulations. Do you have a musical theater ballads for tenor that would help me stand out? A ballad? Musical theater ballads for a tenor that would help you stand out. A ballad. Love, love changes everything. Hands and faces, earth and sky. Love, let me see, I think it's called Love Will Never Ever Let You Be the Same. Love Changes Everything. Take a look at that one. It's an Andrew Lloyd Webber number, and it gets you up there. I think it actually ends on a B flat, and that gives you a chance to kind of show off. Try that and see what happens. It's more of a slower number, kind of a ballad kind of feel, and it's be the same, be the. I think it is same. Love will never ever let you be the same, and I think it ends on a B flat, which is a fun song, fun note to end on. Javier Fatah. Yeah, hi, nice to have you here. Polarizer for Life says the bad part is that you could actually hurt your voice if you push too hard and don't know what you're doing. Good point. Javier says, sorry that I can't stay. It's a school night, but thank you for being here. Ty Wilson, can you give us a daily exercise live daily? So can you give us daily exercise live? Not sure what you're asking for there, Ty. You need to get pumped up. You need to get pumped up. No excuses. Yeah, George. I do. Skysmith says, I try to go high, but sometimes the voice cracks and sometimes it's perfect. I don't know why. Please suggest. Sky, a lot of times, if maybe you have a little allergy going or you ate some pizza the night before and you got a little bit of acid reflux, your vocal cords are a little bit raw, or the larynx is coming up. That's another reason why it cracks. If the valve opens up a little bit too much, it'll crack. It's really it sometimes can be something very small. Even the word before the high note can get you messed up. Hi, TJ. Even though I can hit an E or an F5 with vibrato too. Awesome. That's high for me as a contralto. Very good. Thanks for sharing that. My friends tell me to stick with my low range. I lose my overtones and fullness when singing high. Yeah, but I'd still work your voice there, TJ, because that makes what notes you are singing even safer, more protected. You know that you've got two or three above it too. So I would say with it, just for the development of your voice. The Brex, if you want to learn, hi, nice to have you here. If you want to learn how to sing a song, record yourself singing it and compare it to the version you're trying to sing. Yeah, that's a good idea. It can be depressing too. Hey, Lucas, nice to have you here today. Sorry for the connection today, you guys. I know it's been rough. Tell me one good exercise for power on the transition. One good exercise for power on the transition in the first bridge and head voice. My head voice is artificial. My head voice is artificial from normal chest. Yeah. So E, F, F sharp, you guys. If you said nay, 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 na, 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 na. Now you want to do it in mix. You don't want to just put it in chest. Nay, 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 na, na. So to be careful, I would add a little bit of the, so to make sure that we're thinning out the chest a little bit, make it just a little bit funny, a little bit. Nay, 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 na, 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 na. Take your low breath, pull your tummy in. Nay, 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 na, 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 na. Nay, 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 na, 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 na. Or na, 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 na. That will tend to fill those in. Then, nay, 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 na, 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 no, 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 no. Do that on all those notes. George says, just refresh YouTube. Well, thanks, George, but you know, I think it was on my end too. Maybe YouTube's got an issue today. I don't know. Ivan says, Tossinov. If you could have had Seth Riggs or some other really good teacher instead of tapes from the beginning, what would the difference be in your progress? What a great question, Ivan. That's a great question. My experience is that I feel like I've progressed faster when I've had a teacher that I've, like face to face with. But that, that only makes sense, right? In terms of my own progress, I probably would have been in my mix sooner. It's kind of a hard thing to know early on what you're really doing for sure, is if it's right or wrong. I think that maybe my voice would have been a little more balanced earlier. It probably would have been, but if I look, but I've been one that pretty much when I found a teacher, I studied 8 years with Dean Kalin, and I've taken multiple lessons. I've had lessons from about 13 different instructors. Most of these were Seth Riggs's master teachers. So, I've learned a lot from a lot of different people. So, if I had started earlier, I think I probably would have just, gotten a couple years jump on my own training. I probably would have become a teacher sooner. I'm pretty sure about that, Ivan. I probably would have started teaching sooner. When I think about it, it probably would have had a little more difference. I think I was getting in pretty good place with my voice on my own, with tapes and things, but it probably would have been a little faster in application to songs, or application to, like, I do musical theater, so for preparation for auditions and so forth. That's probably where I would have maybe progressed faster, is the application to singing songs. Yeah, maybe that's a really great question. I'm going to kind of ponder that a little bit. Audiophile. What if I'm using my finger gently to make sure my larynx is staying low and I still crack? Probably it's coming up. The larynx is probably still coming up, finger or not. Now, if you hold it down, you might be able to, if you just kind of hold it there and said, had my finger on the top of the larynx so it couldn't come up. But, you know, you can overpower your finger too. You know, the larynx can still slip under it. That's my guess. You know, maybe, like I say, maybe you've had, maybe there's a little swelling on the cords. Maybe it's something you ate. Maybe you didn't get enough sleep. Maybe you're a little dehydrated. I mean, there's a lot of number of things that can happen, but who knows for sure? Waffles for days. Man, there's a lot of issues with this stream. Chuck, yeah, could you maybe do this topic again some other time? Yeah, probably should. TJ says, if you stay very relaxed, it won't hurt to try a few things. Keep the tongue, throat, neck, shoulders relaxed, and sing. The pushing that we hear is everywhere is incorrect. Yeah, I would say you're right. Rick says, sorry for the stream's buffering, no connection now. Well, sorry you guys. Buffering badly. Akshay, hi. George is back. TJ, yes, I agree. I love trying to sing high and love it when I succeed. It's trying to increase my range. Okay. Torrentinocom. Hi. Nice to have you here. My problem is my head voice, or maybe my falsetto is weak. I have smooth transition. Can I improve my head voice without getting mix? No, you can't. Pretty sure. If you don't have mix, it's very likely falsetto. So if you don't have mix, what do you have? Well, you're either pulling the chest voice or you're in falsetto. So I think you really need to have the mix going. I just want to sound in my head voice. I just want to sound in my head voice like man. But now it sounds like mezzo-soprano. How can I fix it? Well, you got to get your mix going. And so a way to do that is to say, no, 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 no. Now, if I say, no, 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 I'm lost. I'm pulling up the chest. No, 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 no. Now if I sing no, 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 I lost my mix. I'm just going in the chest. So you've got to develop the ability to say no, 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 because that condition will allow you to go into your head. Don't change anything. No, 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 no. That exercise by itself, over time, will build in your head voice as well as your mix, so you sound male rather than like a mezzo-soprano, I'm guessing is what you want to sound like. Instead of, I'm guessing you're a man, yeah, you want to sound like a man. So that's how you do it. You build that in. And when you can do it that way, you sing it. No, 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 no. No, 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 no. And you work on leaning hard on those more open vowels, but you keep it in the place the first one put it. So you can lean as hard as you want, as long as it doesn't fall out into your mouth. No, 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 no. Then I've lost it. I've lost my mix, and I'm just pulling up chest. So you got to stay in that mixed condition, and then you can build the sound, make it bigger, stronger, and build your head voice. I even said, how's flip falsetto sound when you transition into mixed voice, and how do you do it correct? How does flip falsetto sound like when you transition into mixed voice, and how do you do it correctly? So a flip falsetto would be, now I'm in falsetto. If I do it correctly, it's, so that's the correct coordination. So how do you do it correctly? Well, you have to start by connecting it. You have to get it so that the nervous system keeps that the larynx stays down. So you do a couple things. So by going with that little bit of dopey sound. Gee, gee, keep the larynx down. Gee, 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 gee. Or do the nay, 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 which elevates it slightly. Nay, 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 nay. The larynx is up a little bit, but once you get it connected and build that confidence, then you gradually go more normal. Nay, 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 nay. Nay, 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 nay. That's how you go from flip falsetto to a connected tone. And those are two really great ways to do it. And he says, I'm not pulled. Not pulled. So, LeQuack says, hey, Chuck, nice to have you here, LeQuack. I guess my stream is solidified here because I haven't had troubles for a while. LeQuack says, and I got to run here. It's almost been an hour and 3 o'clock is the deadline. LeQuack, how to belt? I don't teach belt, so I can show you how to get a strong head voice. I have to perform a song named Miss Jackson by Panic at the disco, and in that song, Brendan Urie belts the notes F4, G4, A4. I can sing those notes, but not that much power. Well, what I just showed is be very helpful for you, LeQuack, and that is if I practice staying in the first new. Now, if I stay right there and keep that same condition, and practice leaning or crescendoing, getting louder on that without it going into my chest, then I'm going to start building that head voice. It's going to get bigger and stronger. That takes time. You can't have it ready by Wednesday. It takes time to build that over a period of time. I wish it was something I could just show you and have you do it. I mean, I can show it to you, and you can do it right, but a lot of people just can't lean on that, can't crescendo in it, and keep it in that smaller place. It falls out. But that's the secret to building your strong mix and strong head voice. Hat BD says, how much time will it take you to learn to sing? I've been doing it I've been working on this with this technique 22 years now. So, I started getting auditions, starting doing theater, musical theater, in my community here, within about a year of studying. So I started doing stuff because I've done about 40 shows now. And so, but I don't wait till a certain, I got right in and got going and got doing it. So I sang a lot as a youth, but I got discouraged and stopped singing for 20 years. And but once I got going again, and the correct technique got my confidence going. I mean, this thing really has made a difference for me. It was a year, and then I was auditioning again and starting to get back on stage and doing stuff. And I started when I was little. I started singing when I started to talk. But starting up again after that 20-year layoff, I was 43 years old when I attended Seth Riggs' workshop, 44 when I got cast in Mari Yeston's Phantom, which is called the American Phantom sometimes. It was really great. And then I've just done show after show since then. Okay, I got to wrap this up and then we'll be done. Yeah, the stream's been good for a while. Good. Okay, you guys, thanks for hanging in there, those of you who made it through this awful internet day. I just realized I've been singing in falsetto the whole time. We all come to that. It's good to be, the first step is awareness, so congratulations. That's awesome. You've made progress today, and it's been helpful. Okay, this is Chuck Gilmore with Power to Sing Live, number 117. Also, be sure and check out my video on Friday. It's going to be about a new course that I'm releasing on vibrato. It's going to help make the world a better place. So thanks for joining me today, and all the best to you. I guess I can take this thing off. So hey, that's why we had such trouble today. Everybody had to stare at my name the whole time. Thanks. I'm Chuck Gilmore with Power to Sing. You can sing higher with beauty, confidence, and power, and vibrato, by the way. So be sure to catch the video this coming Friday, and that'll be the video on February 1st, all about this new course on vibrato. Thanks. See ya.